Welcome to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Join the podcast mogul Phil Better as he interviews successful entrepreneurs that make their living in the digital world. Now, let's join your host, Phil Better, and his special guest today on Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm, of course, your host with the most, Phil Better, and today I'm very, very excited because we're going to be talking with a guest that is pretty much a visionary, if you will, co-founder of multiple companies in the world of AI. Currently, we're going to be talking about his latest project, Smith OS, which is a very interesting company that's at the forefront of revolutionizing artificial intelligence systems. Smith provides the foundation platform, Smith OS, to bring his future to life for governments and enterprises worldwide. Our guest has been a person from Houston for 20 years. He's equal parts computer scientist, entrepreneur, and marketer. He co-founded, like I said, sold multiple large marketing agencies and is a thought leader in both SEO and AI, and widely respected for his innovation and vision. Please, ladies and gentlemen, Alexander de Ritter. Alex, thank you so much for being here.
Glad to be here. And by the way, that little intro bumper there, that's like made me smile. That was cool.
I'm so glad. That's my main goal, to make sure that our guests here on Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast, have fun, they enjoy themselves. So I'm glad I was already able to bring that smile to your face, Alex. I gave you a wide word-filled intro, but I would love to hear it from your words. Who are you? What is it that you do?
Yeah, so I'm an entrepreneur that's also equal parts computer scientist, and with a specialization in web technologies, machine learning, and also equal part marketing, hacker mindset. So I love where humans and technology intersect.
Oh. And what got you into this? Like, what made young Alex, or middle of the road Alex, decide to jump into the world of like marketing, AI, entrepreneurialism? What was it that sparked you to get into this world?
Well, if you've seen like the Disney movie Moana, there's like this moment she's drawn to the ocean, and her dad says, "No, you got to stay on the island." But of course, the solution to their problem is off the island. She has to get off, and the dad keeps saying, "You can't go, you can't go," and she questions her ability to like cross an ocean. And one day she discovers like this cave of the ancestors, and she sees all these old ships and where her ancestors crossed the world's oceans to get to that island in the first place, because how did they get there, right? And realizing that it's really been inside of her all along. This is who she is, where she comes from, like gave her the strength to then go on her journey and do it essentially what she was born to do, which was cross the oceans. And this is what like the life of those people is. They live on many islands. They have overcome incredible difficulties, like with the ocean and so forth. So my ancestors were traveling salespeople who would go and sell merchandise made in Flanders, like linen, straw baskets, and so forth. And they would load it on horse and cart, go to the north of France, and go from town to town, not come back until the last item was either sold or traded. If it was traded, it was for shoes or wine.
Hey, my ancestry was barrel making in Normandy. So like you're getting wine and shoes. That's great.
Yeah. Fun fact is I have there's a town in Belgium, and there's a cemetery there where there's many generations of those family members are buried in that same cemetery, and all of them had the same thing. They were traveling salespeople. So I traveled from being born in Belgium. I traveled to the United States, and I made my career here. Sales is something that comes along naturally to some people, being able to explain what you're doing. But my love for computer science really started when I had an uncle who was on disability, and so he couldn't do his regular career, and he picked up a hobby when I was it was in the early 90s. He picked up a hobby of building computers, and my parents were always busy working, so I would just go to his house and help him build computers. And then one day when I was 13 or 14, I got my first computer. I was 13, and it was a 386, and I immediately started programming. Yeah, I really never stopped. You know, Bash, and then moved into um, Pascal, and then Delphi. Delphi was like the first object-oriented programming language available to me at age 16. And then, from high school, went straight into computer science. That's kind of how I got into that. Straight out of university, my first job was at a marketing company, and I had read a book the day before applying, Ajax for Beginners, and that was brand new, like right off the shelf of the local computer store. No YouTube at that time to like teach you stuff,
I
and
remember
so
those days. Very difficult to learn anything if you're a
yeah,
visual learner.
went to my job interview and said like I'm Belgium's #1 expert on Ajax because I was the first who had my hands on that book. uh,
That is some large cojones to pull that off, and
right.
obviously it must have worked.
Got the job, and did amazing things there. I had a blast at that company. Uh, built like the world's first email pixel tracking to see if the email list was valid or not. Built some crazy campaigns for some European car brands as well. Multi-channel, like omni-channel kind of campaigns, which you can really do in Europe because a lot of people use public transportation, and then there's a little newspaper that's in like the stations that everybody reads and gets their news from.
Mhm.
Um, also like boy meets girl on a train. They look at each other, but they missed connection, and so boy's like, "Oh man, if only I can see that girl again." What do? You write an ad in that newspaper, and of course, the next day she would see it and feel like, "Oh, I need to get back in touch with him." So everybody's in on that, and so when you can combine these offline methods with online methods, you can create some really creative marketing campaigns. And so I really had my love for web coding, web programming, etc. Then when I came to United States, I had my first job was knocking doors. Well, no, I did not know anything about how to get a job in the United States. So I knocked doors and at office buildings and be like, "Hey, I just arrived here from Europe. Um, I know how to do this, this, and this. Are you looking for a programmer or something?" And within one day, I got a job, and so just arrived here. I mean, it's a bit unconventional. Everybody else was going through recruiters. I was just like knocking doors and say, like, "Here I am. You're looking for someone."
That
And
just shows determination. Like you're like, I'm not even going to wait. I'm going to go to business and show them how dedicated I already am. So that's a plus. Plus, like you said, everybody's going through recruiters.
yeah,
So
yeah, and then like in no time, I got into machine learning. I got into learning. I really got good at outsourcing starting in 2008. Really good at building teams. And then in my work of machine learning, then neural networks came around in 2012. And I saw that they were going to replace the traditional way of like feature extraction. And then started seeing things in the internet marketing space. I knew search engines were going to change based on neural networks. Started building a rank content candidate theory. Got a few patents issued in this space of AI reverse engineering, Google's black box. Started a few agencies, to uh, built two and exited from two, and then try to spin off some of the AI technology that we were using for enterprise as a consumer product. That became inkforall.com. So underestimated in terms of what it can do. So powerful. I mean, people should be paying 10,000 a month for that technology because if they know how to use it properly, Like we took it on one website and grew our site from 50,000 visitors a month to 1.3 million visitors a month in 16 weeks time. Like, where do you get that kind of ROI in the marketing world? But ChatGPT came out like last year, and everybody is now an AI company. And there's so much noise in the market, like so many, I'm just going to call it like posers and,
Listen, you have years. You can definitely call people a poser inside the AI. You are, like you said, a visionary in this, or I called you a visionary. You didn't put those words. I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but yes, you can say poser. I would bow to that and allow it.
Yeah. So essentially, there's so much noise out there. Now, here's how to do this. Here's how to do that. And ChatGPT became so popular. I figured, SaaS is going to have a really hard time surviving in a world that's dominant. And so I think that the way that SaaS companies survive is by integrating with the AI assistants.
Mm-hmm.
And so then in March, GPT-4 was released, and in the release notes, and there was about a week between the release and Microsoft releasing a paper. It was something like Sparks of AGI or something like that. They had done a 6-month study before they released it in partnership with OpenAI, where different research scientists had explored the limits of GPT-4. And I immediately recognized GPT-4 was an entirely different animal than GPT-3. And specifically because it is able to use tools. So when humans figured out how to harness fire, we left caves. When we figured out how to use the wheel, I mean, you had roads, you had cities, you had civilization, you had farming.
Mm-hmm.
Insane inflection point, right? And then when humans figure out the printing press, a few hundred years later, humans walk on the moon. Like, let that sink in. The ability to use tools changes everything. Strip us from our tools, and we're a Netflix show of Alone and Afraid.
It's very true. So true.
Right? So GPT-3 is that episode, but GPT-4 changes everything. So here's like, I want audience to like really grok what's happening here. Okay. You're asking an AI to do something that it does not know how to do, but there's a SaaS out there that is good at it, that knows how to do it. AI is now capable to recognize its own limits, realize that there's another product out there that can solve that problem, go and figure out what the API calls look like, make a proper call inferring from your problem what the input parameters should be, call that API, wait for a response, get the response back, interpret that response, and continue with solution building.
Jesus.
When GPT-4 came out and I read the initial capabilities and we did our initial test, we immediately started working on a framework that was very similar to what later became a little hype on the internet called AutoGPT, to try and really test the limits. As soon as we saw somebody make a similar system open source, like with AutoGPT, later also Baby AGI, we stopped that work because we realized that it's pointless to build the same thing that people are building the world over. But as these frameworks were maturing, we were noticing that there were significant problems with the way they were implementing it. And one of the problems you have with these programs like AutoGPT is what's called the alignment problem. And the alignment problem is basically making sure the AI does what you want it to do. Now, we've all heard on the news or personally experienced in our own entrepreneurship this random employee who goes on Twitter and says stuff that is like really inappropriate, and you have no choice but to fire them, even though they're like really good at their skill, because they made some kind of company scandal or like reflects really bad on your values, and you can't have that. Well, this is what an alignment problem looks like with humans. Right?
Doesn't align with our values. Yes, I can see
Yeah,
like it's the square of chaotically good,
right.
chaotically evil type thing. Yeah, okay. You have to
So
align the AI with where we fall on that alignment.
so the solution that the industry has, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, everything, and that Auto GPT has is basically you're giving the keys to the car. And it's like giving your 12-year-old without driver license the key to your car and be like hoping nothing bad happens. Um, Auto GPT figures for itself out how it's going to go about solving a thing, and that might include in the future browsing, signing up for services, and grabbing data without human input in the loop.
Mhm.
So, what could go wrong? Now that is constrained in its potential damage. People have done what was it, the $100 challenge or something,
Mhm.
and they tried to make AI make them $100 online with Auto GPT, and the best it could come up with is find a website to see if you had some unclaimed money and then fill out a form, and there you go, it made $100. But overall, it got too many obstacles, too many blocks. So people are thinking about alignment in this way. Well, let's make Auto GPT type models work with the next generation, GPT-5, Google's Gemini. And surely those are going to be way, way, way smarter. They're going to get even better at using tools, even better at problem solving. But yeah, they can get so good that they can also decide, you know, to do things that are totally not what you intended to do. And when you give them too much access, that can get really scary outcomes. You can't have that.
Mhm.
So the alignment problem is a real problem with these systems, and so we took another route. We feel like there's also an economic part, not just the alignment part, but there's also an economic part to this. Throwing the largest, most intelligent model at every problem is like you throwing your frontal cortex at the 99% of stuff that your limbic brain can do.
Mhm.
That makes no sense, right? You'd be crippled. Uh, you sometimes see these movies like A Beautiful Mind, where the guy's like supremely intelligent but lacks like basic functions. It's because he's doing everything in like his big brain, and
Instead of
right,
the
right,
reptilian brain that
and
handles stuff.
there's like a real reason why you want to constrain the outcome in a process that you approve within guidelines and guardrails that you approve, and then only use an AI that is as smart as it needs to be to get the job done. Right? So like having like a robot vacuum and iRobot in your house is like one thing. All it can do is vacuum. You're not going to wake up one day and be like, "Hey, I made you breakfast."
I'd be a little worried if my vacuum made me breakfast.
Right? So you see, that's a great example of like alignment. The robot cannot exceed its parameters and does not have an intelligence individually to do more than the task that it's given. Even though you could say that basic intelligence, decision making, interpretation, and deciding what tool to use to achieve that specific task is something it can be augmented with. It's not all of a sudden going to build and launch rockets, right? So these are some of the challenges that we saw with these approaches, like Auto GPT. And we also have in our marketing background, we've got significant enterprise experience. So we said, look, we've put this AI out there in a consumer type of product, and the consumers couldn't like fully value the technology application the way that enterprise has previously. Let's go back to our roots and think about what companies and enterprises are facing right now in terms of challenges. So I did a number of conferences earlier this year where I had keynote speeches on what was happening, Web3, how content marketing is going to change, how AI is playing a role in that, how Google's adapting, Microsoft, how you can get ready as a business. And in the audience, there were a lot of enterprise people, and almost everyone I talked to, almost every business, is appointing a VP of AI or C-suite AI position or an AI council. Like that needs to figure out two primary problems. Number one, how do we do digital transformation, AI transformation in this business so we stay relevant? So how do we make it practical? How do we align it? And the second problem that they have is how do we do that while protecting our data? Because we cannot have these AIs trained on all our company data, or employees are using AI outside of our company policy, and it's leaking private information in these systems. But how do we control that? So those are like the two primary concerns they have. Well, if you overlap that with where the future is heading, AI that's able to use tools and intelligence to solve problems, what you basically see emerging is that what is needed in the world right now, right? On the one hand, we're going to get these bigger models that get smarter. I'll talk about that in a minute. Your audience will love to hear about that. But on the other hand, we also need the harness the power we already have. Like there's this movie my grandmother used to love. My late grandmother is Black Beauty, like this beautiful untamed horse.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it's beautiful to look at, but you can't ride it. So good. That's like how AI feels to a lot of businesses. Oh my gosh, what a beautiful horse. We can't ride it. Not secure, not aligned. So how do we actually make that happen? So we figured what is needed is an operating system to harness all this universe of intelligence, not a monolithic, huge AI that can solve every problem, but can also decide to do things that you totally did not intend. But instead, basically, you can imagine it is the evolution of RPA. Like robotic process automation relies a lot on if then else. They're brittle. If they encounter something that's not deterministic, they're like, oh, I don't know what to do with this. AI and this decision making and this interpretation, this can take that to an entirely new level. So we started making technology, first of all, to bring our own consumer product into ChatGPT. And we built technology because we figured out others would want to turn their website into a ChatGPT plugin as well. And we started noticing there were a set of problems that every company had in common. And then that grew into a kernel, networking, memory, collaboration. And basically, in the Gartner chart, you would see it under multi-agent systems, MAM. It's like the hype cycle goes like this. It's like at the beginning of the hype cycle. And so you can think of Smith OS as the evolution of RPA. It's a multi-agent system, operating system for AI, but it also integrates with your databases, your existing APIs, and whatever SaaS online that has an API or is an AI company in itself. So it's really a universe of intelligence. It can be deployed in the cloud. It can be deployed locally. And when we started looking at what can this do, what kind of problems can this solve? It was mind blowing, right? It's more like, what can it not do? And so we said, okay, so where are we going to focus? Well, we're going to focus on, Nike wants Serena Williams to wear their products because that gets a lot of attention. These are like exciting problems to solve. We're going to direct our beginning phases of Smith OS, not on making a homework agent for my child, because it could do that, right? But solving some of the biggest problems of enterprise and government. And when we looked at that, it's basically in every organization, they say a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. There is a certain process that is holding you back because it's not scalable. And these are the kind of problems that you identify. And in some organizations, those chains can be potentially worth hundreds of millions of dollars to that organization if they can overcome that. Those are the kind of problems that we're starting out with Smith. Now, the way it works, it's a drag and drop thing. You put your work chain together, your workflow together with drag and drop components, connect them and deploy that agent. Then you can give that agent embodiments. You can deploy it as a chatbot on your site, but you can also say deploy to the cloud as an API, or deploy to the server as a background process that just like, I don't know, does penetration testing or security monitoring. You can, or document analysis, and moves it from one database to a CMS after analysis and integrates with the Internet of Things, for example. But you can also imagine in the future, you can deploy these agents to like the metaverse, and you could just have a conversation with it. In the future, these agents can be deployed and have a Zoom call, or join your podcast and have an interview with you. Or send out an email, make a phone call, text message, email, and so forth and so on. So what does the future look like? The future looks like 10 years from now, there's $1 trillion company in the stock market that's run by 3 people. And then an army of agents. What does the future look like? Well, in the past, remote teams were like a weird thing. Now it's like normalized. 5 years from now, you're going to have digital colleagues. You're going to be like, hey, what's up? Can you format this for me? Sure, no problem. And every agent has like a different skill set. If you look at like a skyscraper or something, like a beautiful hotel lobby, you look around, like a rooftop terrace party or something, right? And you imagine what made this happen. It's not Alone and Afraid, right? It's a whole bunch of people and a whole bunch of tools coming together to create something of value. And that's the problem we have today with an enterprise and adapting and adopting these AI systems. Because every little AI is just another one singular tool, but you need an operating system to build agents that know how to grab all the tools that you approve, where your data is allowed to flow, that you control the data and security from. But you need to be able to pull that together to solve real problems. And sometimes, those processes are really well known because companies have done these processes for a long time. They know exactly how to make Coca-Cola, right? And that's who they are. But then there's a process in there that is just not scalable. So you can go from a 30% profit margin business with an office space, a service business in the United States. You have offices, you have employees, etc. By adopting remote work, right, you can go to a 65, 70% profit margin service business. And with adopting intelligent multi-agent systems, right, powered by SmithOS, you will be able to go to a 95+% service business profit margin business. And VCs have traditionally shunned service businesses because they were not scalable. But what happens when service businesses start becoming as profitable as SaaS businesses? All of a sudden, you get some really cool returns, right? But there's another aspect to this, and that is hyper-capitalism. What happens when all your competition moves 10 times faster, is 10 times more efficient, is 10 times more cost efficient? What happens? Well, what happens if the companies who do not adopt this type of automation will be basically left behind? Because the pressures in the market will be so severe. It's kind of like what people feel when they first time step in a Tesla and they hit like ludicrous mode on the flat, and they like hit the pedal, and they just fly off, and they go like, and they're like holding themselves, right? Well, this is the kind of G-force, right, you'll like be experiencing in the next 5 years as a business, in terms of how this type of technology can accelerate your business. And so this is what the picture looks like 5 years from now. And there will be businesses that are slow to adopt it, but their competitors who do adopt it are going to be sitting at 30, 40, 50% better margins than you. How do you stay in business, right? So you have to adopt this. And what I see the future, because people are like, well, what's the impact on people and labor and employment and so
which
forth?
is a huge question right now.
But we're underemployed, so we're overemployed. We have a labor shortage in this country. there are not enough human beings to continue our trajectory of progress and wealth. Like a middle class person in the United States is wealthier than King Solomon ever was, right? Richer than the pharaohs. Our life is we have better medical care, better entertainment, better everything than the richest people throughout history, right? A poor person in the future will be like Elon Musk today, right? Maybe I should pick another person.
Well, we'll be as rich as Elon Musk in essence. Elon Musk would be considered poor in the future, is what you're trying to say.
I'd say, or considered average middle class, right?
Yeah,
because you wouldn't have access to like age reversal technology, right? Yeah. Like, so there's certain things we don't yet have that we'll just in the future look back at this time and be like, well, okay, so that's an exciting future, but how do we get there? And we don't get there by with a linear line. We get there by augmenting, and there's only so many humans that we can put through school and to do this, and there's only so many hours in the day. And you know what? I've got millennials and younger as well at my company. Something's very different going on with those generations than previous generations. They actually also want to include their hobby of hiking and make it compatible with their work. They want to live in a van. They want to digital nomad and work a month out of Thailand, whatever. So how do you combine quality of life with demanding even more labor from people? Right? You need to have automation to make that possible. So for us to achieve a great future, we need more intelligence, knowledge workers, but there's not enough humans. We have a shortage of labor. And in order for us to have better quality lives that are better balanced, we also need more knowledge worker automation. So the future of teams is one where everyone can afford an executive assistant. Everyone. Well, I read a tweet. I liked and retweeted it. It was funny. Somebody said, like, every time I'm about to send an email to my lawyer, there's like $1,000 of money that just vanishes in thin air when I'm about to hit send.
The minute I hit send, it's gone.
Just gone, right? We all know what that's like. So what do? We cut corners. We should all be doing way more legal due diligence on everything we're doing. But we're not, because that's $1,000 every time an email goes off. So the future is one of blended work teams, remote work, but also digital coworkers. And how are you going to create such agents? They're going to run on SmithOS. So the first $1 trillion company that's going to be run by 3 people, they're going to run that business on SmithOS, all their processes. Oh. So this is what we're building, and this is why we're building it. It's because firsthand we've seen the challenges of enterprise and government up front. And I just came from a conference at Austin called the Fed Supernova. It was hosted by the Capital Factory in Austin. All the branches of the Department of Defense and the SBA were there. And it's very much an Uncle Sam needs you moment, where we're realizing that the only way the United States remains relevant is by small businesses partnering with government to solve some of the most critical problems that we have. Because in this country, we have some of the best innovation in the world. It's the envy of every country in the world to have our ecosystem of startups and entrepreneurs. And so, again, what I'm noticing is this. I see 1,000 companies who all have a little gizmo widget solution, but how do you tie it all together? You need something like SmithOS. And so I heard it at least 3 different panels from people who didn't even know we were working on this. But they were mentioning, like, we got sensor systems, we got databases, we got research papers, we got logistics factories, we got robots that can move a packet from here and load it in a truck. How do you tie it all together? Right? You need an operating system for a multi-agent collaborative universe of intelligence, right? And so this is also where Web3 is going. Read, write, execute web, right? Right now, where it's all about consuming content. In the future, websites are going to be more like actual brands. Like you could talk to a brand.
Mhm.
Hey Toyota, tell me what's new. And then this avatar comes up, maybe with your fancy Apple glasses, and it's like, hey, got this car. You want to see it? Sure, give me a tour. Answering your questions, letting you sit inside, look inside, overcoming your objections, fulfilling an order. Then a digital agent that takes you to the finance qualifying part. I mean, all of this just beautifully working together. At some point, maybe noticing a human needs to step in and gracefully transferring it. So this is what websites look like, right? And then picture this, right? You're in your sofa, and we're in the future. You all have electric cars. I'm gonna go with Tesla for now. And you're like, hey Siri, is my Tesla charged yet? Well, Siri don't know that, but Siri, multi-agent system, can talk to Tesla where you have an account and you've authorized it. So it's like Siri goes like, hey Tesla, is Phil's car charged? And it's Tesla's like, yep, it's 85% ready to go. And so Siri's like, yeah, Phil, your car's ready. And you're like, all right, pull it out of the garage into the driveway. So Siri's like, sure. Hey Tesla, pull the car up. Right? Tesla's like, no problemo. And then error, obstacle. The garage door is closed. All right, traditional RPA systems just totally fail. First of all, I would have to meticulously craft this scenario with if then else statements to just make this one scenario work.
Mhm.
But then secondly, I faced an obstacle I don't know how to solve. Well, in the future, what we're talking about, something different happens. Oh, the garage door is closed. But hey, I also have Phil's Chamberlain account. Garage door. Hey Chamberlain, can you open the garage because the Tesla's blocked? And Chamberlain's like, okay, the garage door is open. And Siri's like, hey Tesla, try again. Tesla's like, oh, it works this time. So you're still in your sofa. You didn't hear any of that internal collaboration, and you're just like, oh, my car's in the driveway. Thanks, Siri. That's it. That can only work in a future I'm describing. So the entire web becomes like that. That table that just opened at your favorite restaurant, GPT can't know that just opened because somebody left. How it's supposed to know that? It needs to talk to your brand and know, hey, is it something available right now? And that API or execute part of the web needs to be real-time available. You cannot expect the AI to just scrape your entire website 500 times a second to know what's going on. No, that needs to happen over an API layer, right?
Mhm.
Smith can build those things for enterprises, can turn your business into an agent. Also, so that's the future of marketing. Extremely personalized, but also collaborating with your favorite digital assistant, right? About just turning a page a little bit, I think your audience should know this. About the next generation giant models that are going to power this, Google just announced they're going to be investing $25 billion to build the world's first Zeta scale supercomputer. For comparison, Tesla's Dojo system is 1/10 of that. So Google has announced a partnership with NVIDIA. But dollar for dollar, the Dojo system gets more out of it, but it's not general purpose. Right now, Dojo is really optimized to train on visual real-world data. Either way, what kind of models do they plan to run on that Zeta scale supercomputer? That's what you should be asking yourself, right? And that's going to inform as an entrepreneur how you need to move your business forward. Well, picture this. Google has two AI divisions, Google Brain and Google DeepMind. This year, after the code red of GPT, ChatGPT release, they merged. Google's co-founder came back out of retirement and is personally making sure that initiative works well. What does DeepMind have? DeepMind has all the alpha models, AlphaGo, Alpha AlphaStar, AlphaFold. Right? What do we know about these models? Well, let's say a game of StarCraft. It makes synthetic games, it imagines games, it plays against itself, and then it beats the world's best strategists, strategic game players at some of the most incredible difficulty games. Same with Go, same with chess, same with protein folding. It knows how to learn from itself. It knows how to learn from synthetic data, and it knows how to improve over time. And the big difference is compared to GPT today is like linear thinking. Token, predict next token, predict next token. All right, it's like a linear thing. All right, but alpha models from DeepMind instead use this thing called like trees, decision trees, and they use like Monte Carlo trees and so forth to optimize which path to take. So in essence, it is like at this point, Phil, you there's a multiverse splitting where you could like take 5 different actions right now, and then from there's like 5 more actions. So what these alpha models do is they create, for every problem, they create a multiverse of outcomes, and then they use an algorithm to decide what the ideal outcome is, and then they follow that path. That is what the alpha models can do. All right. So imagine the world's best general, the best strategist that can learn any problem and play 1,000 scenarios in its mind in a second, where you can only conceive one, and maybe in half an hour. That is the power of the alpha models from DeepMind. What has Google Brain achieved? The PaLM models, some of the most advanced large language systems. The PaLM models power Google Bard, and so forth and so on. Okay, Gemini, right, twin, right? That's their baby. The next generation of Google's AI is going to be a baby between the alpha models that have very advanced strategic thinking, online learning, synthetic data, and weak supervision online learning, merged with the power of large language model that show emergent behaviors at these scales. You put the two together, and that is why Google is building a zettascale computer. So there will be 3 types of personal assistants. One will be one for your work that will read all your emails, documents, calendar, and will make you very productive. But they will still need to integrate with different SaaS and different businesses. And that will happen over APIs, the read, write, execute web. Smith can help your business transition and play well with those work assistants. The second type of assistant is going to be, let's just call it your companion AI, the one that casually like hangs
Siri,
out with you.
In essence, it's
right.
Siri handles everything for you in your regular life.
But no, I would classify Siri more in that first category,
Okay.
of like a professional one that reads your calendar and stuff. This one is companionship, right? All the way to people trying to marry their AI and so forth and so on. And then you've got a third category, which I really love, and it's called like digital twins. So a digital twin is someone who is part of every conversation. It's recorded, transcribed, reads the same news sources you read, and interprets it. I already have a digital twin running in my company. And when I'm not available, my team can ask my digital twin, what would Alexander say on this topic? Or present it with a YouTube video that I haven't watched yet and say like, Alexander, please analyze this and tell me what this means. So that is whenever I'm in meetings and I'm not available to my team, I can make sure I'm still available to them. And the best pop culture analogy to this is like when Superman needs advice, he goes to the Fortress of Solitude and he goes talk to his long dead family member for advice, who's like wise and so forth and so on. So digital twins are going to become another category of these, right? And then beyond that, you're going to have you're going to have all these workflow automations, right? Like the ones that Smith OS will help enterprise and companies materialize. So this is the future where we're heading, right? And so this is also why we need to, I'd say, like graduate from consumer-based, hey, I can help you write some better SEO copy, to something that can do the same thing, but inside an entire workflow. How do you create content? You research, you SEO research, you create a brief, you get approval for the brief, you write it, you edit it, you have legal review, maybe you have like sensitivity or company value, like review. You source images, you put it all together and publish it. Right? This is what I'm talking about. Right? A lot of these AI tools that are out there will solve one of those problems.
Yeah.
They will not end-to-end do anything at scale for you. So how can you achieve anything like really meaningful? The world is way more complicated now than Alone and Afraid, right? And so we have what I see is a future where every website, every .com, every website will basically be great at one thing. And that one thing, they will need to make sure that they brand themselves around that one thing, so that the future AI assistants, when they have 2 places where they can book your hotel room from, that they choose yours. How do you make that happen? So my simple advice to everyone who's not high tech and to all of this may sound intimidating to you, right? The thing you got to do today is make sure your brand better well be known for that one thing you do as the best in the world. And whether that is content marketing, branding, PR, making your one thing even better, forget about all the little other things you do. Because you know what? That AI assistant will have 50 other SaaS companies to choose that one thing, that side thing, that does that side thing better than you do that side thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to focus and double down on making sure that when somebody says that one thing, they automatically assume you. You have to become what's called a category king for one thing.
Alex, my God, this has been a masterclass. I feel like I've seen the future, and it's not even here yet. I do have the Spark question because we are ending the show shortly, so I'm going to get your Spark question, then I'm going to jump off screen and let everybody know where they can follow you to see where it's going in SmithOS, because I love the idea of SmithOS, because I do believe like the future will be trillion-dollar companies run by 3 people. But what advice would you give your 10-year-old self?
Okay, so there's a song from Radiohead called Fake Plastic Trees.
Mm-hmm.
And we are wearing fake plastic smiles, and we decorate our office with fake plastic plants and water them with fake plastic watering cans. And so the lyric goes, we are trying to mold ourselves to be what everybody in the world expects us to be. And in doing so, we're always thinking about what make other people happy. And so the beautiful thing about a child, the 10-year-old self, is that if you want to dance, you dance. If you want to sing, you sing. If you want to color, you color. And your authentic self. And it is important as you grow up. So my advice would be this, right? As you grow up, don't forget who you really are. Because you can be so molded by everyone around you that you forget who you really are. And I think that if you're an entrepreneur and today you're doing something that you're not passionate about, just because you think it's going to make you money, or you think it's what other people want, then you're not being your true self. So make sure that you reflect on who you are. Otherwise, like the lyrics in that song go, will wear you out. And the only way to do great work is to be really passionately excited about what you do. When you wake up, you think to yourself, would I play League of Legends? Would I go to the beach? Or would I work on this problem? And if your thing that you're working on is not more exciting than all the other things you can think of, you're not going to have the energy to achieve greatness.
Jeez, that is some great advice to a 10-year-old self. Alex, I'm going to jump off screen here. Please let my audience know where they can follow you, connect with you, and stay up to date with SmithOS.
Yeah, so our website is smithos.com. That's the best place to stay up to date with the brand. You can from there find all the relevant links. My LinkedIn is AD Ritter, ADRIDDER. That's also my Twitter handle. So I post on LinkedIn and Twitter. Feel free to shoot me a message if you want to connect. Love to stay in touch with you.
Excellent. Alex, I can't thank you enough for this amazing look into the future with what Smith OS is going to be doing for companies and how businesses now should be starting planning for the future to have those agents and become the branded for a specific thing that they do. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, of course, make sure you check out the show notes down below so that you can stay connected with Alex and the show. And remember to always invest in yourself.